And when he rebelled against it, he was telling me he left home one day when he was refusing to work for them, and he has missing time from the moment he left home to when he woke up in this room on a medical-type bench. And he said when he got his faculties back, and he was opening his shirt, he was telling me this, and on his chest was like a see-through shampoo sachet. What they call them in the CIA is patches. Someone's been patched. And I could see in this patch a orangey golden liquid. And what had happened, he said, was that his body had been manipulated to need this drug to survive, and these patches have to be replaced every 72 hours, and if they're not replaced, he starts to die. And he has a family. I was there with his family when I met him. He doesn't want to die, so he starts working for the CIA again. And what he said to me was that there is technology that's been around for decades to cure cancer. Technology, drugs, what have you, to cure cancer. He said there's technology to create abundant growth in deserts without water. Why is this stuff not introduced when people are dying through hunger? It's not introduced because of a simple equation. Abundance equals choice equals freedom. Scarcity equals dependency equals control. And so what we have is manufactured dependency all over the developing world, because that equals control. Here's a guy from the United Nations food program. Food is power. We use it to change behavior. Some may call that bribery. We do not apologize. I've traveled Africa a lot, spent a lot of time in South Africa, particularly in recent years. The idea that that continent can't feed itself if left to its own devices is ludicrous. It can't, because transnational corporations take over vast amounts of food-growing land to provide cash crops for the Western market, and there are manipulated wars all over Africa that make abundant food-growing land no-go areas. There's no need for this. It's manufactured. And so you have this structure of hoarding knowledge and keeping it from the people. And I started to think about when this structure was first started, because by the time I wrote a book called And the Truth Shall Set You Free, back in the mid-90s, I'd started to piece together, which I'll get into later on, how the world is manipulated today. It's a very simple structure. It has to be, or it's going to get too complex to work. And so I started to go back looking for some kind of origin for this manipulation. You get back very quickly to the point where you realize that the institutions of power today have not been infiltrated by this network. They were created and structured as they are by the network in the first place to give the illusion of freedom and choice while fundamentally limiting both. And you continue to go back. I got comfortably back to around the time of the Crusades in the so-called Holy Land, around the 1200s time, when a lot of secret societies were created that actually are still going strong today and have among their number the top people in global politics, business, banking, media ownership. And I kept going back, and eventually you're thousands of years BC before you're picking up some kind of theme. It's not the start of it, but it's a point where you can start to pick it up. And it's in this area of the world, what is now Turkey, up to the Caucasus Mountains, and what is now Iraq particularly. Iraq was the home of the very advanced culture, going back to 4000 BC down to around 2000 BC, of Sumer. In the same area that we call Iraq today is Babylon. And interestingly, it was the text and accounts and records of that very area, of those cultures, that were destroyed, and many priceless artifacts from that time looted, according to the museum directors, by experts who knew what they were looking for, when all the chaos broke as a result of the invasion of Iraq. And in this area, certain family lines that were considered to be royal lines and claimed to have the right to rule the people because of their bloodline, what we call the royal families, started to appear. And as you move through history, these families exported themselves out into Europe, where they became the aristocracy of Europe and the royal families of Europe, royal family of Europe in truth, and then through what we call the Great British Empire and other European empires, but particularly the British and particularly the French together, these royal bloodlines were exported all over the world, to North America, to Australia and elsewhere. And they are the ones today that turn up in the positions of ruling power in politics and banking and what have you. Babylon was an ancient headquarters of this Illuminati. Like I said, and that's why, as we'll get to as we go through, these Illuminati today use a tremendous amount of Babylonian symbolism in their own codes and language. This is the area I'm talking about. Egypt came into it as well, but this area was crucial to at this point where we pick the story up. And this, of course, is the very area that these guys are now going back in with a list of countries to take over in the same area of the world. So you had these royal bloodlines that moved up into Europe and became the aristocracy and royal families of Europe, etc. And a lot of researchers are now starting to look at this, because it was very clear to me when I started to investigate this that for some reason these Illuminati families are obsessed with interbreeding with each other. And this has been put together from a number of different genealogical sources: Burke's Peerage, the Boston Historical Genealogical Society that looks at the genealogy of presidents of the United States. And you find that you can pick up certain lines in that ancient part of the world that I'm talking about and come down right the way through to the present day. Philip of Macedonia, who was the father of Alexander the Great, but before he died in Babylon around the age of 32, 33, had taken over much of that blue and white map we saw a few seconds ago. Comes down through the royal lines of Egypt and the Roman Empire, down through Herod, the king